Hey, Martin. I'm really excited to talk to you on this call. I've been following your channel for a little bit on YouTube. And after one of your videos that you posted last week, I wanted to hop on a call and just find out more about you and more about your journey. And yeah, just kind of ask you some life questions. What I appreciate about what you share is I get a really authentic vibe where it's like what you see is what you get. And in my opinion, the world needs more of that. We need to move more towards authenticity whenever possible. So thank
Yes.
you in advance for you being here and sharing. Where to start?
I'm gonna start off by saying thank you for having me on your
Oh
platform.
yeah.
Much gratitude. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm just gonna let you start and maybe just wherever you feel like you want to pick up around the topic of spiritual awakening coming
Okay.
from your story.
I'll let you take the wheel on this one.
Okay.
Um, so whatever you deem to ask me, then that's what I will answer.
I'm going to go back to your one of the topics that
Yes.
you brought up when you were talking about spiritual awakening. And I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to, but some of us don't want to talk about it. When we're going through spiritual awakening, when we are waking up to reality inside ourselves and around ourselves that we were previously unaware of, it can feel really shocky and bring up symptoms that some people might think of as mental illness. Maybe you could expand a bit on some of the things that you've experienced yourself or have seen other people passing through.
So I will take us all back to a particular experience that I had. I have had so many awakenings, and most people would be under the impression that you would only have one spiritual awakening, and that would be it. That's something that I think is not really clear to everyone when they think about going through a spiritual journey. Most people that hear about spiritual journeys or they do research on spiritual awakenings, it's really not explained that it's not something that just happens once. We go through our time going through many spiritual awakenings, and they are more like small chapters to a very pretty much an infinite book. And these awakenings happen over the duration, over the time that we exist in these vessels until we transition. And what happens most of the time is we ignore even the subtle ones, we ignore the small ones until we finally get to that point in our lives where we start to reflect on our lives changing and why things are changing the way that they're changing. And then it becomes, oh, now I am awakening. So now the awakening process starts for most people because they start to actually realize certain things are happening in certain ways, going through a period of transition where they start to reflect on their emotional, mental, and of course, the physical follows that. But back to your question, the one experience that actually had me in that moment, I was stationed in Heidelberg, Germany. This was back in 2009, and I was a military police officer at the time, 529th MP Company. I responded to a specific call that night. Knowing a little bit about the European culture and the history of the land there, I was told that it's very spiritual, and being able to see some of those historic places, they are very heavy when it comes to spiritual presence. And I was never the type of person to be into my spiritual self like that. It was more of a history lesson for me. It wasn't something that I could say I read about it, people told me about it, and I experienced it myself. At that time, I could not fathom really how spiritual, heavily spiritual this place is. And like I said, I've never experienced anything like this in my life. I've heard people talk about it. I've had relatives that have told me um, their stories, and they're even my mother. Um, and I'll digress for a minute. So when my grandfather passed away, my mother was explaining to me what happened to her, what she felt, and feeling like a tap on her shoulder. Um, and not even 5 minutes later, she got a call saying that my grandfather had passed. These were just things that, normal people, they hear people talk about, and people tell them their experiences, and it's like, okay, really believe them because did it really happen? It never happened to me. So I was right there. So I responded to a call in Heidelberg, Germany, which is right outside of Mannheim, or they call it Wattenberg. There was a construction zone on one of the main roads that goes to the back gate of the base. I get goosebumps every time I tell this story. So as I'm driving my patrol car down the road, I see that the barrier that's actually supposed to be blocking the road from people from, going through the gate at night. That barrier, and it's a large metal barrier, it's moved to the side of the road. So they also have their own enforcement there. They're called pawns guards. So they're equivalent to what the U.S. would call DOD, Department of the Defense Security. As I'm getting out my vehicle, he's coming down the road. He's hauling butt. I mean, I see his headlights. They're probably about 1 kilometer away. Next thing I turn around, he's probably 500 feet from my car. He was flying that fast. Um, so he gets out the car. We move the gate back onto the road. Before I could turn around and get back into my patrol car, he was already in his car and he was gone. I have to do a report. Every time you make a stop, every time you respond to a call, there's a sheet that you have to write down, the 5 W's. Um, and in the midst of that, it's pitch black out there. There's nothing out there. It's like an old farm road that kind of crosses the main road. What other place for me to turn my patrol car around than right there at that intersection? There's no other place on that road except for that farm road that crosses the hardball. Um, as I'm getting my papers and stuff and I'm writing everything down before I get back on my patrol, I noticed that the left side of my light bar is not flashing at all. And I only noticed that because I looked out the window and I didn't see my blue lights flashing. I looked on the right side. The tree line is lit up with blue lights. Stick my head out the window. The lights on the left side are not working, writing down my mileage for the vehicle. And I noticed that my four-way flashers that I turned on are not on anymore. No, I did the proper inspection. Everything, all the lights worked. So I pushed the hazard button. They blinked 3 times. Who knows? These are like Ford vehicles that we're using for patrol vehicles. So maybe that's a Ford thing, right? No pun intended against Ford. I reset my light bar, but same thing happens with my lights. The left side doesn't work at all. So I hit the hazard buttons again, or the hazard light button again. Same thing. And I've never had this feeling. I actually have back in 2003. That was the only time that I've ever experienced this feeling that I had. And something was telling me to just go. And there was no need for me to fear anything because, of course, I'm armed. I have my body armor on. There is no description of really how it felt or what I felt. I just felt uneasy. I felt like I needed to go, and that's exactly what I did. So on the way down the road, and I didn't even care if my lights worked at that point. I was just gone. So maybe there was a reason why the pawns guard just jetted off. Like he was gone. And I called my supervisor for that night. He was a very, people would say, strange guy. Always felt comfortable around people like that, around people that just have, that are very versatile, people that are different. I felt like I've always been a part of that tribe and I've always fit in with that kind of tribe. Um, so I'm speaking to him and I'm letting him know, hey, I may need to go trade this vehicle in because something is not right with my lights. So he's questioning me and he's asking me, what do you mean? Like, I'm explaining everything that happened with the lights. And he's like, okay, well, where were you parked? And I said, well, I mean, it's a two-way road. The only way to turn around is the dirt road, the farm road that crosses the dirt road. He's like, what time were you there? I didn't even tell him anything. I took my clipboard and I handed him the clipboard. Now, mind you, at this time, I'm not even thinking about all the other stuff, right? All the other things. Um, that he's getting ready to tell me. So I hand him my clipboard that has the patrol report on it, and the time on it is 0000 military time, 24-hour clock. That's midnight. 0000. So he takes his glasses and he's doing this number, right? Yeah. So he's like, "Did you just write this?" I'm like, "No, I wrote that right before I pulled off." How many times, he's asking me how many times the lights flickered and how many times I pushed the button. He said, "There would have been no telling what would happen if you would have pushed that button a third time." Like I feel it right now. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, um, "You've never heard of the crossroads?" Yeah. Bone Thugs and Harmony, dude. Like those are my guys, right? Bone Thugs and Harmony. He's like, "No, not Thugs and Harmony." He's like, "That is exactly what they were talking about in that song, but that is where souls, spirits tend to meet. It's more of like a crossover for them. It's symbolic of a crossover, of a transitioning point. So it's one of those complex things that's like, okay, this is just another way, but I was not trying to dive into that because when I start doing that and I start going into rabbit holes, I really go deep. At that moment, my mental was so off. I've never felt that except for that one time when I was deployed. But this one exceeded that. Something is here, something is coming, move now. But at that moment, it was like whatever it was, I could feel it. Like I could literally feel it. And I had on my body armor and all of that under, my uniform, but I could feel like a sense of pressure. But it's one of those things where you can be in a room or be sitting somewhere and you can literally feel someone walking up on you without you even seeing them. The sense of things around me, it's like it's amplified. I'm starting to feel the tension that people bring with them, their energy, their aura, more. And I was very, very discreet about who I told that story to. And the reason why was because my supervisor actually told me. He said, "You better be careful who you tell the story to." In the military, they have something. Um, of course, they could have diagnosed me with PTSD, right? So they would automatically try to relate my combat experience with that experience and then try to send me to mental health and stuff like that. So being in military police, that would not be good. That would be bad for clearance. That would be pretty much a career stopper. And it was instant. It was instant. And I was like, okay, I pretty much like hang out with these guys every weekend. And then it came down to um, I just I felt that they would be judgmental. So a lot of the people that I was hanging around with, I was like, for some odd, strange reason, I really don't want to hang out with them. And then I started to see some of their marriages, some of their friendships with other people start, like things just started happening. And I was like, wow, I'm glad I didn't go to that barbecue, last weekend. I'm glad I didn't take the invite to go over to his wife's house with him. It was one of those things. It was like, okay, something was always like telling me, just don't do it. I'm from Baltimore originally. Um, so there's always been knowledge of women having intuition, women being born with intuition. And my mother always told me that there's no woman that you can play games on. But you have to be at a certain level, on a certain frequency and vibration to tap into that intuition. Um, and that's when I got my first taste of intuition, not even knowing anything about it. I'm starting to research paranormal, supernatural, you name it. And I was told there were certain places that, even as military personnel, that we couldn't go to in Europe. And there was only a certain time you could go there, and you had to be on a guided tour. It's a very sad thing when you have military people, military personnel, where you have to bottle yourself up like that,
Mm.
and you really have to protect your mental health, and you have to protect your career at the same time. In mainstream media, it's more of, okay, what can we broadcast for political gain? How is this going to help our political agendas? What message can we give the people for political um, sway? Put in a situation that I really couldn't get out of because, like I said, everything was intensified, and it was like, okay, the people that I was really connected to, the people that I hung out with almost every weekend, I just stopped. And it was something in me, something that I felt that just said, you know what, this weekend might not be a good weekend. And there was always something that happened when I wasn't there.
Mm.
Um, so then I became like their lucky charm because the handful of times that I did show up, they were like, "Oh, you should show up more often." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." Like, because I'm like, you know what? I didn't believe I knew about it, and I would watch like, the X Files and all of these other shows and stuff, right? And you're like, because I never experienced it myself. And I think that's where a lot of people are still in this world today. It's not if it's true or not. It just hasn't happened to them yet. Because if people are talking about it, if people are speaking on it, it's already happened, especially the movie part. Even when you look at the historical movies, these things have already happened. So that's where the mental battle with me was going on. And I'm like, okay, I know these things are happening to me. So now I have to, like I said in my video, I had to draw back into myself and realize that I wasn't alone because I still had myself. But at the same time, I was not expecting anyone to believe what I experienced. Like I said, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. Um, and coming from the East Coast of the USA and going to Europe, going to Germany to have my first officially spiritual awakening. I still don't understand why I had to go all the way over there to experience something like that to make me realize that I needed to elevate myself more. There was something more that I needed to tap into. And I think that's what it was for me. It was more of a clear sign that, hey, we are here and we want you to know that we're here. And that he did ask me that specific question. He did ask me if I saw anything. And I told him, no, I didn't see anything. And I looked around and it was pitch black on both sides of my car, except for the side where my blue lights were on the right side. But everything was pitch black. But I know what I felt. Like, you don't belong here. Like, get out. I know I'm alone. I'm not alone, but I have myself. But I don't have anyone that I can talk to about it. Not even a chaplain. Religious spies. So people go to them with their testimonials, and then the next thing you know, they're being hauled away to let's say the crazy house. What's mental health? What makes these people say the things that they say? Do they really experience it, or does everybody really think they're crazy for saying it? So when I started looking at that kind of thing, and whether or not I should go talk to somebody, I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to shut my lips. My supervisor, like I said, he was very much into the Wiccan practice. And he did a lot of explaining to me about rituals and spells, and you know that not everything is bad and not everything is good. There's a yin and a yang to that as well. There's a balance. There's a light and a dark side. I'm feeling like I'm alone. I can't really tell anybody other than the people that I already know, but yet these things are happening to me, and they're happening in the sense that I'm feeling things that I've never really realized that I felt before. I'm having that gut feeling, that intuition. I'm digressing. When I was in middle school, my teacher used to always call my mother and tell her that I was a bad daydreamer. And I was like, I wasn't daydreaming, like I was awake. No, that's not what daydreaming is. You're not paying attention in school. My daydreaming is actually getting worse. I'm like, people are talking to me and I'm spacing out. I can actually remember everything that I'm seeing as I'm going through this daydream. There's still a fear in me, but I'm just very unaware of the things that I would truly come in contact with. Daydreaming experience. It was more of like people that I've never, situations that I haven't even been in yet. I would see myself as people are talking to me. I'm thinking about something totally different, and I'm seeing things in the future. I'm seeing something ahead of me, and maybe a week or two later, it hits me. Bam! I knew this was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. My mind is so like crazy right now that I can't even have a decent conversation with somebody that has never experienced this. Like I have to find the right people at the right time in the right place that have been through this kind of experience and had these kind of experiences to understand exactly what I'm going through. So I felt very depressed. I've always been drawn to people that are different. I've just always fit in. I'm a military brat. My mother is a retired master sergeant. So I was raised around everyone. I was raised around different types of people. Um, I was brought up and raised not to judge anyone, regardless of their race or nationality. I was like in my little circle, and you feel like there's no one around you that can understand you, that can understand you, and the prejudgments that come with that. It's a very it's a very depressing feeling because you realize at that moment that you have nobody but yourself, and anything that you do is reliant on yourself. So your survival is always the reality of it. Our survival is solely on ourselves. But we live in a society and in societies where we tend to be part of a community. We tend to be a part of a group. We tend to be part of a culture, something that gives us validation. And when you start to realize that you don't really need validation from the external world, that it's really and truly always been about you, that's when you start to kind of roll out of that whole mindset of being alone, of being afraid, of being judged. You guys just got like a double dip of her video and my video together. Yeah, I just rolled that two videos into one right there. Um, so yes, that is how it affected me mentally. That's how I felt, and that's why I felt that way. Those are the events that led up to me um, feeling that way with that particular awakening.
Hmm.
Yes, I'll breathe with you.
Great.
Yes.
I feel like we're somewhere on the roller coaster. Yeah, thank you. Still sitting with this idea of mental illness.
Okay.
Sometimes it seems like people who share their stories, who write books, who make videos, they talk about their one big awakening and the struggles that they had, and then it's all kind of like neatly packaged up with a bow, and they present the story like it's something that happened to them and now they're just good to go. And that hasn't been my experience, and I feel
Mm.
like I would love to hear about some of the things that have showed up for you since then, even up until present day, waves of things that pass through that still could be considered mental health symptoms, like intense waves of unease and anxiety or depression, or, can you just share a little bit about real life when it comes to after these awakenings start?
Yes, there was a gentleman. I'm not into clout chasing, so I don't want to give anybody
No, we're all
any
just learning together.
right. As one, most definitely. And if your viewers go to the video, they'll see the comment. He was pretty much explaining his opinion, which I can appreciate. When you come to the platform and you tap in, don't be uneasy, don't be biased about other people's opinions because, like you just said, we are all learning from each other. And as one, collectively, we all come from one source. So we are the source. We all are one. We are all connected to something and everything. So the gentleman, so he spoke about his belief, his disregard for religious practice, his knowledge, opinion about spiritual entities being good and bad, and my personal experience. There have been lots of things since then. And know the anxiety. I'm sorry to tell any of your viewers this. If I were to say that the anxiety goes away, I would be falsifying my information, which I would never do that. There's a way for you to control it, and you figure out how to control it, how to be in control of it, and you figure out how to recognize that it's happening. You figure out how to deal with it in a manner to where it actually will help you instead of hurt you. Some people have to do this by way of medication, which is, of course, never the best way, unless you're doing it holistically. Then that is probably the best option if you want to do the medicinal way, if you want to take herbs and those such things. That's not the only option. I actually told one of the VA counselors who shall remain nameless, who shall remain nameless. He was one of the doctors at the VA. I was explaining to him everything that happened to me or everything that I experienced when I was in Iraq, when I deployed to Iraq. 2 hour session. I didn't go talk to this guy at the VA until 2015. So this awakening that I spoke of happened in 2009. I didn't talk to anyone about it professionally until 2015. The first thing he did was tell me, here's your prescription. Go pick it up in 2 to 3 hours. It'll be ready. I was literally on my own. And I'm glad you asked this question because this is really like this is the next domino in line. I experienced a lot of things in 2015. I decided that the military was no longer for me. So I enlisted in 2001, right after September 11th. September 23rd, I was in Paris Island. And of course, that was my graduation year. So I was like, I was ready to have fun and, hang out with the guys and do all the crazy stuff that 18-year-olds do. At a point by this time in 2015 where I feel like, you know what, I think I've put in enough time. I could have did 20 years, but I did 14. So who cares? If I really go and speak to someone or everything that I'm going through mentally, when it comes to being promoted, mental health is a big issue in the military and being in a leadership role because you have to give off this persona that you're tough, that you're undefeatable, that you're built like steel. But they have to give off this persona. And that's where you start to get into the alcoholism. You start to get into the substance abuse problems because you have these people in leadership positions that are so afraid to go talk to someone, to let their emotions out, to vent to someone, just to sit down with someone and say, look, I experienced this. I'm having these issues. and I need advice because then you get a red flag. Once you get a red flag, you can't get promoted. They try to deal with the pain, the hurt, the anxiety, the PTSD. When they get to that breaking point, we're sorry to notify you, but this person took themselves out of this world. They have transitioned. And it's sad to say that, but it happens. And not enough people talk about it. I wish a lot more veterans would talk about these things. And the family members of these soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, they know that these things happen. Most of them have been victims. So they know exactly what goes on. When I decided to get out, I knew it was best for me. That experience that I had was something more than just that experience. There was more to it. And like I said, as I started to research more, I started to learn about meditation. I started to gravitate towards being a spiritual being. Out of high school, going straight to the military, after a 14-year stint with the military, this was like the best thing since sliced bread. Um, like I felt like I was reborn again. I just felt like I was free. Um, I didn't have to tell anybody where I was going, and people blowing up my phone. Where are you? Like that was all over with. I really started to increase my interactions, and we're all adults here. Um, so there would be, you know, females that I would, see, and I'd be like, oh, I wish I had a girlfriend like that, or maybe 5, 10, 15 days, maybe I don't know how many days, but eventually I would run into someone of that resemblance that I was thinking of. It really didn't sit. It didn't sit with me. So this continues over and over and over. I'm like, yeah, maybe I want someone with brown hair. Maybe I want someone with red hair. I'm not dating one with a red hair. And so that whole thing kind of like continued, right? And it was like bam, bam, bam. And it was like, okay. So now I'm thinking I'm blessed. Like whatever I want, like I'm getting, like it's coming right to me. Like every time I think of something, it's coming right to me. Not even thinking about what I don't even understand, right? Thinking about what kind of jobs, what I want to do, places that I want to go. And I would get to go to the exact same places I wanted to go. I was like, man, yeah, I knew I was going to, like, I knew I was going to, they were going to give me a load. And at this time, I started driving trucks right after I got out. Um, I knew they were going to give me a load going here because I knew it. I knew it. I already thought about it. I knew it. A lot of things that were happening to me were so good, and I felt so blessed that I was like, you know what, this is what I deserve. Like I put in my time, right? Um, now the fruits of my labor are paying off. I'm meeting the people. I'm getting the dates. I'm going places I want to go, and those weren't the best situations for me. Um, and I think that is a very, if I could drop a gem right now, I will say that. And this is also what the gentleman said in his comments. We think that something is a blessing. We think that something is in our best interest. It's there for us to take it as a blessing. But when you actually sit back and you realize that you are the one that attracted that to yourself. So whatever your vibration is, whatever your frequency is, if that's the vibrational frequency that you are on and it comes to you, even if it's bad for you, most people would see it as their blessing. Like they always say, your vibe attracts your tribe. Birds of a feather flock together. Same concept. The whole birds of a feather flock together is the same concept. Is reworded, and the wordplay is so differently that we've heard it for years and years and years growing up, and we don't even understand what it means. Your vibration is the key to it all. Your intent is the key to it all. When you put something out in the universe via thought, this is how everything is created. This is how manifestations are created. Everything that is man made was a thought first, and then it manifested. And my mother used to always tell me, if you can think it, it can happen. I never truly understood that concept until I started to get into my spiritual journey and I started to look into manifestation, the universal laws. So what is this thing? What are these religions? Growing up, I wasn't forced to go to church. I used to be on the Sunday school bus in like grades 1 through 5. And I was like, I was always like kind of like side eyed at my mom because she was like, "You're gonna get on that Sunday school bus." And I'd be like, "Well, shouldn't you like be?" I was thinking like, shouldn't you be getting on the bus with me too? Like, so why am I going and I got to get dressed and you don't have to go to you don't have to go to church, but I got to go to church. A prepping phase for me. Later on, um, I started to attend a apostolic church. I really wasn't comfortable. It was just something about it. Even with the whole Sunday school thing, it was like I was just going through the motions. Yeah, we'll go there, we'll eat some snacks, we'll eat some sandwiches, we'll get some juice. And I didn't remember anything from Sunday school. I don't know. I really don't like people touching me like that. I've never been a fan of like and I don't care about family members, but like people like, put their hands on your shoulders and I'm like, do I know you? Like, have I seen you before? Where do I know you from? But people were very touchy. Even the older people of that church, and they like, oh, like the wet smooches on the cheeks and stuff from the church ladies with the sticky. And then you smell like some kind of like rose perfume or something. Like it was very heavily scented. I know it may be too much for you. My brother, my older brother, we're 11 years apart. During high school, I wasn't constricted. I just wanted to be in my own little world. I didn't have a problem being different. I was in ROTC. Um, I was in the band, the jazz band, the marching band. Um, I was always into something having to deal with art, being being creative. Um, that's always been something that I've always been drawn to. The creative side of life. And like I said, this is before I even really realized that I had some kind of gift that I was different for a reason. I had a lot of friends. The first one was a kid that I went to middle school with. So now we're back on the religious thing. Middle school, I went to a Catholic middle school. I went from Catholicism back to Christianity, back to Catholicism. Um, so, and my distinction between the religious practices, weren't really, it wasn't there yet. I wasn't mature enough to understand and overstand these things. So I was just going with the motions, just like most kids that age do. You just go through the motions and you listen to what your elders are speaking to you, what they're telling you. They are literally your guidance at that point because you're learning. This is a learning experiences for you. So the things that you don't know, you rely on the elders, the siblings, the older siblings, to guide you and teach you these things that you don't know anything about. Not even that you don't know anything about it, but you don't remember it. On a spiritual aspect, you do not remember it. You don't recall most of this stuff. And I haven't ran into anybody yet. I will be very blessed the day that I do run into someone that can actually recall their life prior to their current one. I would love to experience one of those relationships and know that person and actually like sit down and talk with them. That would be amazing. I was always protected, and I never really thought about it until I started to see the trend. And I didn't start to see the trend, and we'll jump back forward here in a second. I didn't start to see that trend until I started going into my spiritual journey and I'm starting to reflect. I'm starting that reflecting stage. So I was always protected from being bullied because, like I said, I was different. I never really fit into one particular group. I always got along with everyone. And I would get picked on, but I would always have that one person that would be like, you know what? Don't talk to him. Don't touch him. Don't approach him. There was always like a sense of protection there. Sadly, that kid that I knew when I was in middle school, he was like the big, the bad boy. He was considered like one of the bad boys in the school. So nobody would really, you know, confront him or approach him. By the time I got to my ninth grade year, when we left, when I graduated middle school, my freshman year, I actually met his sister at my high school. Um, and she told me that that summer he had transitioned. It was like, man, like I knew this kid, like he was always looking out for me. He was always there to protect me. He was always there for my interest, to protect my interest. So then I met another kid. He was a junior at the time. In my freshman year, he was a junior. And I actually met him because I was taking public transportation, the transit bus, back and forth to school. So we just so happened to ride the bus together. He was one of the in the bad boy club. He was one of those guys that people did not want to challenge. Um, and he was known for, getting into confrontations and altercations. So that year, he actually transitioned. My freshman year, the year that I met him before I went to my sophomore year, he transitioned. So I get to my junior year and I meet another kid. And like I said, I was in the jazz band and stuff like that. So just so happens his father is the instructor for the jazz band. So we became close that same year. He transitioned. Same concept. Mentally, I'm not even there yet. Spiritually, I'm not even realizing what is happening in my life right now. I could not even grasp the concept of things that were happening. I'm out the military. These things are happening to me. Yes. I'm feeling like I'm blessed. I'm having the best time of my life at this point. I feel like everything is a blessing. It happens the way I want it to happen when it, not really when I want it to happen, but eventually it happens. And then I start to feel the wrath. I start to feel the abundance of negative things that are happening in the process of me feeling like I'm blessed, but at the same time, getting into a relationship and then something happens. Once that situation goes sour, it's bringing something with it. Like it's like never ending. It's like it's something that's coming with it. So the relationships that I was involved in, it's like I wanted it so bad. I got what I want, and then it becomes chaotic, and problems just come out of nowhere. Like out of nowhere, things just start to happen. You really start to question yourself. What am I doing wrong? Is it me or is it them? But according to them, it's you. This is something that men deal with very, very much. We are raised in a society, in a world where it is not seen as masculine to voice your concerns when it comes to your mental health. There are a lot of websites, there are a lot of organizations that support women with mental health issues, that support women that go through abusive relationships or abusive families. But it makes, in a sense, it gives the the male population in the sense that they can't do these types of things, that they can't reach out to these organizations, and they can't voice their opinion when it comes to being worried about their mental health and if there is something actually wrong with them or if it's something wrong with the people that they are dealing with. Everything in every relationship that I would get involved in, it would always end the same way. And it was like, I think we should just be friends. And I was like, I really, I couldn't really wrap my mind around what was going on. And then it finally clicked. And I said, what if I just don't even think about a relationship? What if I just focus on me? I focus on my career, what I want to do, how I want to progress. Now that I'm out the military, now I have to kind of recreate this whole lifestyle for myself. Because it's not about just being you know a Marine anymore. It's not about being that anymore. Um, what am I now? Now that I'm not a part of the military organization anymore, what am I? What do I call myself? Yeah, once a Marine, always a Marine. I got it, but that's not who I am. That's not me anymore. So what do I do with myself? How do I create this legacy for myself, for my kids? How do I do it? Me researching, me actually starting to research manifestation. I was subconsciously manifesting every almost everything and everyone that I came in contact with. I did a little trial and error. I was really testing the waters. As far as anything spiritual, I wasn't I was full throttle. You couldn't tell me that it's not real because I already experienced it. I've been dealing with this for at this point, almost 7, 8 years. And I know what I felt that day. And to this day I can remember it like it was yesterday. I can tell the story the same way like it was yesterday. I can still see me in my patrol car doing a U-turn, moving the gate, getting back in the car, going through the motions, pressing all the buttons, writing on the paper like it was yesterday. So now I have a building block. I have my purpose. Now I need to figure out what else there is for me to tap into. And like the gentleman said in the comments, there are a lot of good things, a lot of bad things that can happen to a person depending on your vibration. And once you start to master how to be in control of your vibration and your frequency, then you can learn to control what it is that you allow to come in and interact with you and be in control of what it is that you're actually attracting to yourself. People start their spiritual journey, and some of the people that I've known, they get into their spiritual journey, and they get some good traction going. But what they fail to realize is the things that you put your energy into, the things that you focus on, are the exact same things that are going to be attracted to you. These are the things that you're pulling into your existence. And it's a very simple manifestation calculation. You talk about physics, anything of that nature, the laws of attraction, it's all the same. Manifestation, the laws of attraction. When you understand this, when you understand universal laws, for every action, there's a reaction. And for every thought, there's a manifestation for every thought. But a lot of people who start their spiritual journey, they don't grasp this concept and they get discouraged. And they say, "Oh, well, that wasn't for me." But for whatever else, whatever reason, they convince themselves that they wasted their time in trying to become the better version of themselves, and they give up. Just like anybody else would in any situation where they don't see the results that they wish. I learned very early in my spiritual journey that not everything that happens to you is going to be good, and not everything is going to be bad. Here, we were not sent here and put into these vessels to be perfect. That is a man made lie. Perfection is something, it's the greatest lie ever. I don't care what anybody says. If anybody gets anything from this video on your platform, that is the biggest lie ever. Perfection is the biggest lie ever created by man. Even in any of this religious text, perfection is the biggest facade made and created by man.
Okay, we got cut off when it said perfection is a lie. So we're definitely in alignment here.
Yes,
So
yes.
just in closing for today, would you share with anyone who's watching, if a person is experiencing any of these mental health symptoms that you talked about, paranoia, uneasiness, extreme anxiety, depression, and they feel that there's a spiritual nature to it that they can notice, what would you share with them in our last 5-10 minutes here together? I want to say that neither of us are mental health professionals. We don't want to flag any videos.
Yes, yes. Quick
This is just
disclaimer.
a disclaimer, but what kind
Yes,
of, jump right back in.
yes. I am not a professional. I am merely speaking from my experiences that anyone who is dealing with, I'm going to call it a confrontation right now because it's a battle between your mental and your spiritual. These two are totally separate. Realize that you are your only source. You are the only option as to figuring out what it is that your purpose is. You are the only one who can control. Nobody else can control what happens to you. You manifest these things. You create these things. You are the one that attracts the good and the bad to yourself, regardless of what anybody says, professional or non-professional. This is coming from myself, from my experiences and what I have learned and what has gotten me to elevate myself and to become a better version of myself is understanding this. You only have yourself. The moment that you realize that, your whole world will shift. If it hasn't already, once you actually realize this and you meditate on it and you know that you are the only one that can make a difference in any and everything that you do, regardless of what anybody tells you, regardless of who believes you, who doesn't believe you. If you believe it and you believe in yourself, you can make it happen. You will make it happen. And as long as you are in alignment with your intent, then whatever you wish to manifest will manifest itself in the physical. Or I did a short video on success and how we are under the misconception that because we have more than somebody or that we have more of a monetary value than someone that is less fortunate than us, that we deem ourselves to be more successful. And that's not totally the case. Your inner wealth means more than anything in this universe. Your inner wealth. People say health is wealth. Well, if you break that down, they say you are what you eat, meaning the things that you consume containing negative and positive energies really contribute to your vibration. So your low vibrational foods put you on a lower vibrational frequency. Your higher vibrational foods, your vegetables, um, your alkaline foods, stuff like of that nature, they put you in a higher vibration, a higher frequency. Your cells, they vibrate at a higher molecular level, which puts you at a higher frequency, a higher vibration. And you realize that you yourself are the only one that can control and contribute to your success or your failures, which another misconception is you can't have failures. You shouldn't fail. Well, if you don't fail, you can't learn. And that's contrary to everything that we've ever been taught in society about being successful. In order to learn, you have to first fail. And it's not really a fail because it's a learning experience. So if you don't get it the first time, you try it again. If you don't get it the second time, you try again. But every time you try, you have learned something from the previous experience. So it's not a failure because you're actually learning something. You're gaining. So where's the loss? If you're gaining experience, where's the loss? There's no loss. So there's no failure. Um, so that's another gem I'll drop for your viewers.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
No, you're
I'm
good.
thinking even if someone's having a super difficult period of depression or
Mhm.
anxiety or paranoia, and it might feel like they're not failing at successful life, from what you're saying, there's a lot of learning experience going on within that.
Yes. There are tons. There are tons of experience. Too often, like I said, throughout people's spiritual journey, they give up. I've been trying to get in tune with myself. I've been trying to fix my mental health issues, and I've been trying to meditate, and I've been trying to go on the spiritual journey, and it's not working for me. Well, nobody said you're going to get it on the first try. And to go on a spiritual journey is not a promise that you're going to get everything right. It's not meant for you to get everything right. It's a learning experience. It's a learning curve. So if you don't achieve the results that you want and you're going through these types of experiences, whether you're battling mental issues or you're dealing with a spiritual awakening experiences and you're dealing with, trauma from childhood or current trauma from relationships or whatever, there's no such thing as failures. You are the creator. The creator is within you, and you cannot fail. It's impossible. It's impossible to fail. You're only gaining experience. So if you don't get it right or you don't get the results the first or second or third time, it's the consistency that matters. The more you do something, the more you learn, even if you don't do it right the first time. You can do it wrong, but you can't fail. But every time you do it wrong, you'll actually learn something so that the next time you do it, you become more successful. Every time you try and try and try, you're becoming more successful. You're just learning along the way until you get to that point where you say, I finally got it. I finally mastered it. I am dealing with my traumas. I am dealing with my my PTSD. I'm dealing with my mental issues. Then you are always succeeding. You will never be a failure. Never tell yourself you'll be a failure. And that goes back to laws of attraction and just being in a positive mindset. I was on the brink of a breakdown, like I said, when I actually expressed what my experience was. And the first thing they did was, okay, well, here's a prescription. All the years, blood, sweat, and tears that I put in for people that I don't even know for false reasons. We wouldn't want to get into that, but um, for other reasons other than what I actually was thought to believe, I sacrificed almost 15 years of my life. And luckily, I was able to walk away and still have this experience in this body and speak about it and tell people about my experiences. It will be okay. And it will always be okay until you start to tell yourself otherwise. But if you want to help yourself, if you want to help other people, which is what we are supposed to be doing in this age. Actually, we're supposed to do that in the age of Pisces. But now in the age of Aquarius, everything is coming out. The veil has been lifted on so many things, Amanda, and it's mind boggling. But for us, um, it's something we can deal with because most of us have actually been through far worse in our personal lives when it comes to trauma and dealing with situations that affect your mental health. So these things that are happening in the world right now is like it's kind of like a circus act. It really is a circus act. It's nothing compared to what we've actually experienced. We just kind of look at this stuff like, are you serious? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, okay, another one bites the dust. Yeah, it's nothing to us. We've seen far worse. We've been through far worse, and we're recovering and elevating ourselves and awakening to a vibration that is very, very threatening to these other entities out here. And they know it, and there's nothing they can do about it. The good will always prevail. Sadly but surely, it's true. Keep your heart pure. That's something else that I would give everyone today before we are done. Is just keep a pure heart and keep your intentions pure. Me being a very strong empath now and actually embracing that I am an empath. And I am a Pisces, by the way, but we have been known to be very passionate and emotional people. The empath part of it was something. This is a gift that I had that I never embraced because I never knew anything about it. I just knew that I was different. So if you are different, if you feel like you're different, it's okay to be different. And like Amanda said, it's okay to be weird. Just be weird. There's nothing wrong with being weird. It means you're different. And if you're different, you know what? You are a commodity. You are a very high commodity to this universe because everybody wants to be like everybody else. Everybody's following the trend. Everybody wants to dress like this, look like this, and wear this like everybody else. But if you're different, you are the uniqueness that this universe needs. You are the uniqueness that the universe created because we are all created not equally, we are created differently. And I won't ask the church to say amen. Don't ask me, Amanda. And people have to learn to appreciate that at some point in their lives, that being different is is something that's normal. Being different is the new normal. There's nothing wrong with that. The world would be very boring if everybody was the same. If everybody wanted to be a Kim K or a Kanye, everybody would be so bored because there would be nobody to entertain what it is that we call validation. In other words, when you look at somebody, when you meet someone, a complete stranger, the first thing you want to do is find out what it is about that person that makes them different than you are. That's what makes a person very interesting. A person very interesting and you wanting to get to know them is the fact that they are different and they've experienced something that you haven't. They came from a different um, walk of life that you haven't. They've experienced something that you haven't. And that's very intriguing to the human brain. We love change. We are programmed for change. We are not programmed to be robots, robotic. We are not supposed to be stuck in a loop where everything is continuous and everything is the same. So when they say curiosity killed the cat, well, that's because he saw something different. We are attracted to things that are different. The yin and the yang, the positive and negative, the light and the dark. We are attracted to opposites. If you give off negative vibes, you get a negative attraction. You attract everything negative. You want to attract everything that has your best interest in its interest. So for the guys out there, don't go out there having these wild thoughts of all of these, no pun intended, to the succubus. And then you turn around and you find out that your life is taking a drastic turn and things are not working out in your favor because you're putting your energy in the wrong direction. Most people would probably wouldn't take kindly to the video that I made, and it was about um, women respecting themselves and how the interaction between man and woman, the exchange of spiritual energy, when this happens, when people are sexually involved, people don't tend to think about these things, about the STDs, these sexually transmitted demons. They don't think about this stuff. And that's part of the reason why our younger generation, they are going through it. They're going through it the worst because they have no guidance. They have no guidance at all. And their spiritual energy is so distraught right now that between the music, the stuff in the entertainment industries, and all the subliminal messaging that's going on with the TVs and the movies and the broadcasts and the billboards and everything else, all of these subconscious messages are being sent to them. And it's the same thing that happened to our generation growing up. And when you sit back and you realize it, that it's been happening since we were knee high, then it's like, are you serious? Are you really serious that this stuff has been happening for this long? Our generation, Amanda, we are finding ourselves at the brink of the spiritual warfare that's going on right now. And people have been talking about it for years, but now I think it's becoming more relevant, especially with the age of Aquarius um, actually in full effect right now, and just these weird things happening around the world. And now people are like, yep, it's definitely a spiritual something going on. So, like I said, just remain in a positive mindset. Continue to remind yourself if it's something that you want to achieve, if it's something that you want to bring into fruition into your life, set your intention on it and do it gracefully and be honest and pure about it. Tell the universe exactly what it is that you want. So after the whole Christianity and Catholic thing, like I said, my older brother, we're 11 years apart. I converted to Islam, but I had other experiences um, that I did not talk about um, because there was actually three different occasions where I should have transitioned, um, and for whatever reasons, it never like it was like a game of Uno. It was like skip one, draw two, skip one, draw three. Like it was like a no go. And I've always had my moments where I sit back and I think about those moments, and it always reminds me that being spiritual, more important. And like I said, this is no pun intended to anybody's practice. Whatever you do to connect yourself to the divine, that is your way. That is your way. It's just some of us have elevated to a level where we have come back to our spiritual selves, because when you came here to this realm, you did not come with a religion. You came here as a spirit. You came here as an energy. You did not come here assigned a a Bible or a Quran. You did not come here assigned a specific religion. You came here as a spiritual being into this flesh body to have this human experience. Infinite energy, thermogenics, thermogenic laws. Um, Energy can't be destroyed. That comment that the gentleman made um, about his religious preference. Once you get to a level of being on a spiritual journey, religion really has no preference. And you start to realize that we are all spiritual. We have always all been spiritual. And if you take away this flesh, this body, this clothes, the skin color, the hair, the beard, everything, the glasses, um, Amanda's amazing hairstyle that she has over there, if you take that away, we are all spiritual beings. We are all spiritual beings. Underneath all of this, we are all flesh and blood. Inside of that, organs. Each organ has its own function. Each organ can function um, on its own magnetically, but together they function as one unit. But inside that, the spirit is contained within the soul and the body. Um, so first and foremost, before we start to say what nationalities we are, where we come from, how we grew up, we are all spiritual beings first. And you must realize that before you start to judge yourself and you start to tell yourself that you are a failure and that you're not perfect and that you're not good enough. You are here for a reason. You are brought here for a reason. You find your purpose and you keep on moving with the troops, because you are a spiritual being on a spiritual mission. All you need to do is find your spiritual path. Hopefully, I can give you and your viewers, your subscribers, more videos upcoming. I'm pretty sure you're going to have some amazing um, questions for me in the future. So, and this is not scripted, you guys. So, um, I'm going to be surprised as well because I don't know what she's going to ask me for the next video. Who knows?
We'll
But
see.
thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
My
Thank you. Much
pleasure.
gratitude. Peace and blessings, love and light to you all and to you as well, Amanda, for the wonderful opportunity for the interview.
I'm going to put your YouTube channel links in the description so people know where to find you.
Okay.
And if you like this video, click like,
Yes.
comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I just want to express my gratitude to you, Martin, for showing up and just telling the truth unfiltered, just the way that you experienced it, because that's
Yes.
what this world needs more, is the
Yes.
vulnerable, naked truth, so that we know that we are not the weird one.
Yes.
We are all uniquely going through something big. So thanks for showing up.